Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being with us today. And now I want to go one step deeper into some of our most exciting innovations.
Hi, my name's Natalie Mead, and I run the SC team for APJ and Snowflake. And at the beginning of the year, we brought you our Discover series, and that's where we really got into data warehousing and data engineering and building apps on Snowflake. And then in June, we were super excited to bring you Summit, where we talked about all of our new releases like large language models, LLMs, Generative AI, Snowpark Container Services. And then after Summit, we were really excited to see you in person at our Data Cloud World Tour. And now we have one more Discover session for you. And if you ever wondered who thinks about our roadmap or who builds our roadmap or who looks at how we're going to release products, well, that gentleman is Christian Kleinerman. And we're very excited that he will be at this next Discover series, and he'll do a Q&A session with everyone where you could ask him questions around what we're doing with LLMs. How is our partnership with NVIDIA going? Where are we looking to move Snowpark Container Services? How do you build a native app within Snowflake? So join us in November. We're super excited to have him here, and we'll see you then.
Welcome back, everyone. So I just played that there. In fact, we did have Christian live on yesterday with a bunch of questions that he ran through. So he was a good sport to take those. And as Natalie said, you might have questions about LLMs, which brings us to the session that we are with today. So we have actually covered 2 days. Now, this is our last session today. So if you're still with us, I thank you so much. We have a great one to finish up with. And I'll bring Chung up in a minute, who actually will walk us through. But before we do that, let me just cover a couple of little things. So just a reminder, we are diving into some of the new feature functionality. I've got a few questions over today, particularly like, will this do exactly this then on release? We're trying to share with you today information as we got it. Snowday was announced last week. We run pretty fast. Progress are produced very quickly. So I've asked the team, and they're all like, "Oh, David, do we really have to come and talk this week? We only just got a hold of this information ourselves." Many of them were in the US last week getting a technical update, and here they are this week talking to you live. So we'll do our best to represent accurately what's going on, but just be aware things may change and we get to full release. And we might not have all the questions, but all the answers to your questions, but we'll endeavour to do the best we can. And as always, we'll keep running Discovers to give you the latest. But keep attending our other shows. Build will come up. We'll have more. We do blogs, other information that comes out that will keep you up to date as certainly things emerge. Just a final reminder, this is a live event. I'm going to try and record these events. Well, I'm recording these events this time around. It's been a popular request, but it requires another process at the end, as I found out. So apologies if yesterday I said I'll get them by Friday. There's a couple extra processes I've got to go through to release. So we will try and record them this time. However, the best thing to do is just hang around and watch it live and ask your questions, because when in the recording, you can't ask your questions live. So please do. Please ask our questions. I can see Marco's there in the background waiting to take questions. And finally, of course, do attend Snowday. Grab the QR code now. Go and have a look if you haven't already. I think I've shielded this pretty relentlessly over the last 2 days, but go and have a look and check out Snowday, because that's really where you're going to hear about, the big theme for this Discover and all the things we've been doing. I might see if we can get Chung up on screen. I can see he's joined us. Good afternoon, or in your case, was it still morning? Still morning in my case. How are you?
Good, thank you, David. How you going? Last session of the day?
Yeah, the voice is still hanging in there. We are going to rerun this for my time zone, Asia and India this afternoon. So, but it is been a big few days. So they always say, save the best for last. So what do you think? We've got the best for last?
Hope so. I mean, got some very exciting announcements to go through. Someone just recently announced last week. So it'll be a really good session, I believe.
Yeah, it will be. And as I said in the intro, I mean, this is literally coming, what do the Americans say, real time? It's coming as we're delivering it. So you can ask lots of questions. I can't guarantee that we'll have all the answers, but we'll do our best. Okay. With that, Chengdu is one of our senior system engineers based in ANZ. So I can't think of anyone else more qualified to take you through this. Take us away and let's dive into large language models with Snowflake.
All right. Let me share my screen.
And I've got that.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the session. My name is Chung Zhu. I'm one of the senior sales engineer at Snowflake. And today we'll walk through some of the new features around LLM and AI. So in terms of the agendas, we'll go through some of the core business and technical concepts of LLM to give you guys a starting point. And then we'll talk about what is LLM, how it works, and why are they relevant in business today. And then we'll go through some of the key features that will enable these capabilities to run within Snowflake. And then we'll conclude with a demo. So I think it's pretty exciting stuff. So we'll jump straight into it. So in terms of the business context, we pretty much are now in the age of generative AI, right? So, and it's going to change the way which we enable our internal teams and how we deliver innovative products going forward. So AI is not new. There are many aspects of it which won't go away. We still need a classical AI and ML to bring things like business forecasting. And obviously the introduction of deep learning allows us to do predictions and responding to unstructured data. So for the example here is around how do we analyze video footage to predict foot traffic and so forth. Okay, but now in this generative AI era, we are asked to do more with our data in a way that's more relatable to everyone in the organization. But the only thing is that running these models can be very expensive and require a lot of data and processing requirements than ever before. Okay. So in terms of the boom from the generative AI and how it happened, what are the things going to change in the future as well? So as most of you guys will know, it all started by consumer-facing products like ChatGPT. As years passed, we saw a boom also in open source LLMs as well for very sort of comparison in terms of performance to that of the external hosted. So these include Llama from Meta, Google Bird, to name a few. Due to these technology, we are seeing opportunities for enterprises to acquire industry-specific models as well. So in the future, the idea really is to have tailor-made LLMs to your industry so that you can have a focused set of models that know your data and that can run specific jobs and tasks in the most effective way. Okay. So in terms of the business context, now we can jump into the technical concept, and the technical concept is really based on what is LLM. Look at the fundamentals of it, try to understand what is large language models. Okay, so to start the journey, the way humans learn language is very different from how machine is. So for us, language is a mode of expression. All right, so we have experiences and observation. Based on that, we'll put into words in conversation. So for machines, it's purely based on inputs and outputs. So therefore, a machine is purely statistical and is bounded by algorithms. Okay, so in order for the LLM to become an LLM, there is a pre-training step. That is used, namely self-supervised and unsupervised learning, really on a large amount of data. So you can think about all the data around the internet, corpus of documents, and the primarily task is to predict words in sentences by learning meaning. Okay, and then how is this meaning represented in language models? So this is done via the form of embedding. Embedding is really in its natural essence a representation of word using numerical values. So we essentially embed words, phrases, sentences, encode them in numbers, and that captures meaning and context. And then when you encode the words and sentences, it can be processed by machines and various algorithms as well. So therefore, closer the embeddings, the closer the words. So therefore, particularly synonyms are going to be very close match in terms of the encoding. So in summary, encoding really helps in terms of continuation of sentences. So as the model tries to predict the next occurrence of the word, if you ever use ChatGPT in the past, you'll see that the answers are always returned word by word. So this is really the continuation of that. And then with the embeddings, you can apply these embedding directly. So you don't necessarily need a generative part because the embeddings already have direct meaning. So you can use it for use cases like, semantic search. So you can directly use these embedding because they have meaning. So one of the examples of semantic search is that if you're an organization and you're looking to analyze contract across multiple documents for specific clauses that's require amendments, right? And due to obviously legislation change, you can encode a fragment of text or essentially the clause under consideration, and then search the encoding embeddings to effectively find similar context and replace all that within the documents. Therefore, you can use the power of embeddings directly for these use cases. And now for the generative part, when we talk about LLMs, how can we adapt LLM to acquire knowledge and for novel scenarios? And this comes in two forms. One is obviously fine tuning, and the other form is in context learning to adapt the model for question answering, for example, or following instructions. The process really involves a model to be fine tuned because the model needs to be provided with many different examples so that it can be tailored to your question answering or following instructions. And then over time, when the model processes all that information, it's no longer a natural language model. It becomes more of a specialized model for question answering. Whereas for in-context learning, it's very suitable for various prompt strategies. So if you heard of prompt engineering, solving scenarios such as sentiment analysis, right? The key idea of in-context learning is that it learns from analogy. You provide a text, the answers, the labels, and then the sentiment will be provided purely based on positive and negative. And then over time, it'll give you the sentiment as required based on your use case. Okay. Now that we've covered off the business and technical concepts of LLM, we can now deep dive into Snowflake and how it can help bring your data to generative AI with speed, lower the total cost of ownership, and also without having your data risks upheld as well. So when we look at some of the generative AI platform objectives, some of the value proposition that Snowflake provides is one is obviously the protection of your most valuable data assets. As a fundamental component of generative AI, your strategy is your data strategy. So making sure your data is secure and essentially governed within a secure platform is key. And then you can essentially expand the adoption of AI as well, because there's a lot of value that could be untapped from classical ML and also AI, right? And then the last component is really around keep developers focused on development because rather than spending all the time trying to fine tune LLM, they can leverage obviously pre-trained LLMs and develop applications that can drive insights and then surface that for monetization opportunities as well. And then reducing any of the maintenance required within your organization for managing infrastructure going forth as well. So if we take a look at the broader picture, so this is essentially all the components that we'll be offering as part of the Gen AI LLM within the platform itself. We'll look at the first component. So we'll dive into the generative part. Okay, so you have here essentially Document AI universal search, Snowflake Copilot, and also the Cortex, which is essentially the feature that was announced last week. So what is Snowflake Cortex? It's essentially the backbone or the underpinning of the Snowflake experience. So we spoke about Document AI, universal search, and also SQL to text, for example. It's essentially a fully managed service that's embedded with Snowflake's own LLM. So it will allow organizations to quickly analyze data and build AI applications within Snowflake. And then we'll be offering very specialized functions as well for large language models. But the idea really is to focus what's been pre-used for your use cases around analytics. And then we'll jump into some of the key features of the Cortex as well. So in terms of some of the value proposition is going to be very easy to use. There's no need to manage infrastructure because the LLM is trained and ready to go for your AI tasks daily. It's flexible in terms of the users can access industry-leading AI models, LLMs, and vector search functionality directly within Snowflake. And it's also cost-effective in terms of the compute and optimized inferencing for searches that you run and get your data where it sits, right? So you don't necessarily have to move data between the platforms to use the services. Your data should already be in Snowflake to leverage the capabilities of Snowflake Cortex. And then some of the offerings that's built on top of Snowflake Cortex includes Document AI, Universal Search, and also Snowflake Copilot, which is really the capabilities of language to SQL capability. We'll jump into each of this feature and I'll show you how they work behind the hood. So the first part is obviously Document AI. It's essentially a powerful workflow that will allow you to extract content from unstructured data that you might have. So this includes documents, PDF, and from that, Document AI can automatically extract the analytical value of that information. And in some ways, you can automatically get answers and you can fine-tune some of the results all within the Snowflake UI. Okay, so it's a low-code solution. The users will be able to have this capability directly from the Snow site if you ever use the Snowflake UI. The second part is obviously the universal search, which is powered by obviously semantic search. So think about all the data objects that you might have in Snowflake. It's essentially a service that allows you to quickly discover and the various objects you might have that's first party and also within the marketplace as well. And this is powered by Cortex using LLMs as well. These services will also be provided in the UI as well. And then the last part of the Snowflake experience is Snowflake Copilot. So it's an LLM-powered assistant, and it's powering generative AI across coding. So you'll be able to generate SQL based on natural languages, and then refine queries through conversations. And again, this service will also be available directly within the Snow site UI going forth as well. So the three experiences that we talked about, they're all currently in private preview at the moment. So please feel free to reach out to your account executive to figure out, how you want to use these services going forth in the future as well. And then we can talk about how you can empower Snowflake Cortex within applications. So as many of you guys might know already, we have Streamlit within Snowflake, essentially having applications built within Snowflake, and you can surface a lot of these capabilities directly in minutes. And then within the Cortex functionalities, we'll be introducing a couple of specialized functions. Okay, so there's ML-based functions and there's LLM-based functions. The LLM-based function is built on within the core Cortex offering. So you have functions such as translate, which gives you if you're given a text from a supported language, and it can translate that to the other. You can use a function called summarize, which can return a summarization of a given text. So it would be very useful for large transcript that's in text format, and you can summarize that in a usable format or has an analytical value based on that transcript that you provided. Sentiment is essentially returning sentiment codes representing detection of overall sentiment based on your questions or answers. And then also extract answers. It's a functionality where it's Q&A. Okay, so essentially given the questions, it will give you the answers based on these questions as well. And then the right-hand side is currently already, some of them will be in GA soon. These are ML-based functions, so pre-trained models under the hood. And then you can do forecasting for time series data, anomaly detection, top insights, and classification as well across your data. So the idea is that with these functions, you can use it and call it invoke via SQL, and then you can run it directly across your data as well. And then we'll have a look at Streamlit and within Snowflake platform. This feature is currently available for AWS. I believe in the Azure instance will be available shortly. They're still on the roadmap at the moment. It gives developers a quick, easy to use open source Python-based library to have the ability to quickly create applications directly and surface that and share that within internal organizations as well. All right. Okay, so now we've talked about the experiences. We can now move on to the container services, how you can essentially use LLM, host LLM, and that's all powered by container services. Okay. What container services does will essentially bring ultimate flexibility to you to fine tune your own LLM, essentially coming in two different flavors. Okay, so you can see on the right hand side, user marketplace. So the first flavor is partner package industry LLMs inside of Snowflake. So this is running securely within our Snowflake boundaries within the native apps framework. It's a multi-tenant approach where you could search for an LLM in the marketplace and then use that with your data. But it's multi-tenant because the model will be hosted on the partner's Snowflake account, but you can actually use it via consumption base using tokens essentially. And then the second component is really the ability to bring an open source LLM. So you can download an image of an LLM and then host it directly within Snowflake. So these include Hugging Face, Llama from Meta, very comparable to OpenAI. So you can then essentially take that LLM and then fine tune it as well and make your own and use it for your own use cases going forward. And all that is powered by Snowflake container services. And then as part of the container service enablement, now it gives the developers an easier way to deploy container images directly into Snowflake. Provides you can essentially run any code, runtime, framework, app stack within the Snowflake boundaries with your data, as well as choosing CPUs or GPUs as well. Okay, so some of the value proposition around running container services in Snowflake, one is obviously ease of use. If you've ever managed or hosted, AKS or Kubernetes before, there's a lot of complexity around it. Running on the cloud, and there's a huge learning curve to get started. So for data scientists or data engineers, they might not have that adequate experience, but you can easily do that within Snowflake. Okay. And then the second value proposition is really around the ecosystem. So where your data resides, you can easily build powerful applications directly with the data and surface that within the Snowflake marketplace via native apps, or you can surface it via Streamlit for consumption and presentation as well. And then in the future, you could essentially build your own container application and host that on the marketplace, and giving you more sort of monetization opportunities across your global audience via Snowflake. And here is a couple of lists of some of the partners that's already been listed and hosted on the container services. Partners include Hex, Dataiku. Some of the industry LLMs includes AI21 Labs, Neva, NVIDIA. And then obviously you can also have various vector databases hosted within the platform as well. All right. Okay, so with that, we're going through all the slides. I think we're in a good time, and we can jump into a demo. So what I'll showcase today from a demo standpoint is we'll be hosting an LLM directly within Snowflake. We'll be using the Hugging Face image from Meta. So you can see here, I've got the Hugging Face image. So I've just copied, and I've already pre-downloaded the LLM already. So the first thing we would do as part of container services is that we need to build an image, and we need a YAML file that could be leveraged so that you can be registered against Snowflake container services. And to do that, we essentially use VS Code. Okay, so VS Code has a connector directly in Snowflake, but you can see here in my repository at the moment, I essentially have a LLM folder and a Streamlit folder. Okay, and then in these two folders, I've already pre-built Docker file images for the LLM, and you can see the Hugging Face is here, right? And then we essentially have a YAML file. So the YAML file will also have your token that connects to the Hugging Face, and the way that you essentially orchestrate the build within the container services. Similarly, with the Streamlit application as well, we also have a Docker image, and then also a Streamlit application file, and then YAML file. So in order to deploy containers inside of Snowflake, two key things are essentially the YAML file and the Docker image file. So if you have an image file and a YAML file, and then one of the examples here is that you could essentially use Docker, and you can push a particular build image directly to Snowflake account. So you can see here, I'm just showing an example that's already pushed a particular image directly to my Snowflake account. So therefore the layer already exists. But when you first start, you'll be able to see the push of these images and YAML file directly there. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll jump into our Snowflake account. All right. And then we'll have a look at some of the key components of container services within the Snowflake environment. As part of the demo, what we're trying to achieve is using the Llama LLM to essentially bring out or draw out the analytics from customer transcripts. Okay, so we have a table here, and the table includes a transcript. You can see it's a summarization, and there's a lot of text to go through, and we want the ability to extract the information rather quickly. And we can definitely use the LLM from Llama to do that. And then we can see next step is show image repository. So you can see here, this is essentially where you push the Docker images directly to your Snowflake account. So once it's there, we'll essentially be managing an own image repository directly. Okay. And then the next part is really creating a compute pool. The compute pool is obviously the instance. You can choose CPUs or GPUs. So the syntax is really create compute pool, give it your compute pool a name, choose the minimum maximum number of nodes, and then you can provision that directly. So if we have a look at the compute pool, so these are all the various instances or the families that's currently there, right? And then you can see this compute pool, the GPU node is currently active. So therefore, I can use that node for my container services. And then the last part is you also need to create a stage to host and manage, obviously, the YAML file. Okay, so the YAML file and again, the image are the two critical components of container services. So you can see here, I've already pushed through two of the YAML files. One is the LLM YAML, and then the other one is the Streamlit YAML. Okay, so once that is done, what you need to do is essentially create services. Okay, so we've got two containers that we push. One is the Llama LLM, and the other one is for the Streamlit application itself. And the syntax is really using this create service feature. Okay, and then you give your service name, and then you specify the compute pool which you created, and then point it to the YAML file which you push through. Okay, so this will create a service for the Llama container, and this service will create the Streamlit container application itself. So I've already created services previously. So I can say show service, and then you can see the two names. And then from that, Snowflake will also provide you with public endpoints. Okay, so let's look at the Streamlit. You can see here, this is essentially the HTTP endpoint. And then we can put that in a link here, and that will go directly to the Streamlit application. So this is really just a chatbot, simple LLM chatbot using Llama LLM. So maybe we can ask a question. What's the best burger place in Sydney? So you can see here, pretty much using that as a Q&A, and the Llama LLM will return all the various results based on the best cheeseburgers. Hopefully, the grounds of Alexandria. Had no idea they actually did cheeseburgers there, but that's good. So this is really empowering open source LLMs directly within Snowflake and surfacing that in the Streamlit application itself. And then obviously we can also use Streamlit to summarize. So this is really prompt engineering. You can say summarize the following transcript in business context, right? So by doing that, we can extract this information. And the summarization essentially says a customer contacted the airline customer service reporting recent issue delayed departures. Okay, so there's different folds and different ways you can use open source LLMs directly within the platform as well. Okay, and then the next component is now we can also create a function, right? So before I jump into the functions directly, there's also a couple of system functions you can call directly within Snowflake. So you could also use the function system get service status, which will tell you whether the service is ready to use. Okay, so and then this is the Llama container, and the other one is the Streamlit container here. So they're both ready. We can definitely use it. And then you can also see the various logs based on the containers. So if there are any errors, all the log information is provided using these capabilities as well. So using the container service metadata, get service log system function. Okay. All right. Here we go. So that's cool. So the next part is now, if we want to start doing prompt engineering directly within Snowflake and embedding that into applications, we can easily create a function. So the function I've created here is called create function LLM, and the prompt introduces text, and it will return text, and you use the Llama service container as well. And the endpoint is chat. All right. So based on that, we can go back and look at the transcripts. You can see there's various different transcript information. And what we want to do is we want to select a particular transcript, any transcript in random, use the LLM function. We want now the information to be returned as in JSON format. We want the root cause of the transcript, and also we want the resolution and sentiment of the conversation put into keys. So essentially using the LLM to digest the transcript, we want to have a summary, we want a root cause, and we also want a resolution. And then obviously the end sentiment as well. All right. So we'll run that directly using the function that we created, and that's using the Llama container service behind the hood. And then you can see the result that's been returned provides a response in JSON. And then from this transcript, the root cause is unforeseen maintenance issues, and the resolution is to offer a voucher for future flights or refunds. And then the sentiment is neutral. So this essentially gives you an idea of the various capabilities and use cases you can use, and empowering your organization for different use cases. I think I've come to the end of the demo itself. David, do we have any Q&A? Let me just have a look. Okay, quick start. At the moment, there's no quick start for container services yet because the feature is still in preview at the moment.
Put me on the hop there.
No,
I was just coming back. We had a couple that went through
just,
the quick start one as well. There was one earlier, and where are we? Just get back in here. There was a question around quantized models. Does this work with quantized models? I can't remember which bit you were talking about at the time.
Quantum, I think Marco replied.
He did. He said, "Doesn't see why not." Was said at the time.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. What else do we have here from Clayton? Any prompts are kept within our account. So if the company data provided, the prompts are safe.
I mean, from what I've showed using the LLM function, the prompts information I've submitted is used as input to that function. It's not stored. So directly, it really depends on how you use the prompts directly. But from the example that I've shown in the demo where I'm calling the LLM function, it's not going to be stored, no.
Yeah, we had those questions yesterday, and at the confusion between, if I'm using an open API to go and call stuff, where is that? Is it safe compared to, as the example used at the start, as building your own sort of enterprise purpose-built LLM where it's all sitting in Snowflake?
Snowflake,
in which case, well, I guess is a question. I assume that the intent would be to make all of our security apply to that as you would expect in Snowflake.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, one of the things I actually didn't put in the slide is we also have external access directly. So within Snowpark, we can offer external access directly to, say, OpenAI for ChatGPT endpoints. So you can essentially use that as well. So you can have your data in Snowflake, use the external access to point to your endpoint for your ChatGPT, and you can do a lot more as well. But obviously, there's going to be data movement because your data is going out of the Snowflake environment, and then the response is then returned into the environment as well. So it's an alternative way as well.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks for that question, Clayton. I think on with the show.
All right. And I think I'll just breeze through this. I'm finished in 30 minutes. So hopefully that give everyone an idea of what's coming and what's going to be available shortly.
Okay, my mute on there. I'll try that again. Cool, good stuff. So we got through it all. So just were you over in the training last week in the States?
Yeah, I was. Yeah. So all of the sales engineering team went to the States to run through the tech up. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Very
So
exciting.
just for you personally, I mean, this is I did a series of roundtables earlier in the year, and at that stage it was still early, and we're in the sort of early constraints of how can this work. What are the kind of use cases? You mean obviously you just did with a chat bot, But and that kind of feels like the low hanging fruit, right? I mean, every single app you download at the moment they've built a chat interface into it. Whether it makes any sense at all or not, they've all got them in there, right? And it's AI powered. But from an enterprise standpoint, I mean, what are some of the use cases maybe you were kicking around? Just to be clear, folks, this is just speculation, not what we're going to build. But just what do you see as potentials that it may be interesting in this sort of enterprise context of taking LLMs?
Yeah, definitely. I think having the Cortex capability and some of the pre-built functions, I think the most sort of sought after feature is really around document AI. Because obviously all organization will have some form of unstructured data, whether that be contract, documents, and then obviously in sort of legal industries, there's going to be a lot of that information. It essentially accelerates a lot of the processes to extract valuable information. And then using document AI, some of the main core capabilities is you can fine tune some of the answers to tailor made to your industry and use cases going forth as well. So I think that's probably a quick win. And then the other part is really around enabling business users, because obviously if you go down the path of trying to train your LLMs or fine tune that and do a lot of the prompt engineering, you do need specialized skill sets. But with Snowflake, we are providing what we call experiences. So a lot of these four core features that we're offering is ready to use for business users. And then obviously the Copilot capability is really be able to use natural languages to convert to SQL. So it helps developers to speed up a lot of the development processes. But the core fundamental sort of value is really accelerating business, obviously business value, and then reducing the requirements of maintaining and obviously improving and doing a lot of the infrastructure stuff within the organization.
Yeah, perfect. I had a conversation recently too with someone who was a startup building an application, and they were looking forward to go and do something today. Requires a pretty heavy lift building a platform. You've got to go and employ some people who are very expensive to go and deliver. So it's going to be really interesting to see, with third parties, what potentially is more just point, click, load up, customize. Now, obviously there'll be a limit, to that. But, if there's potentially a whole array of useful functions that you can use straight away out of the box, and then you can go and attach to, I don't know, maybe you want to play with images or whatever you're going to do, that could be really interesting too. And as I said, I mean, how that pans out, what it looks like, I don't know yet. Not building the roadmap on the fly, but I'm certainly interested to see that. I guess Christian talked about trying to make this in minutes. So how many use cases or how many features we knock down, where rather than having a conversation on building a bunch of infrastructure, you can very quickly have a broad-based team get into actually building something useful. So for me, that's also really interesting as well.
Yes. I mean, we definitely will be expanding a lot of the specialized functions going forth when obviously the language model matures a lot more. But obviously, right now you can think about summarize function, translate. So these are already pre-built functions that you can readily use in applications. So you might have large amount of data, and then you want to have some ways to interact using, for example, Streamlit to publish to end users or client-facing audience. They can easily directly use these applications and get response and value from the data directly, right? So it's not something that you have to have a build mentality, but whereas in Snowflake you have the various capabilities available, and then you can still fine tune if you want to, if you have the technical expertise. But the idea really is to sort of accelerate a lot of the value to the business directly.
Yeah, it should be a really interesting journey. So I think I've got one more question here. Uju just asked a question that I've been asked a lot here, which is around content. I think, Uju, you were asking about release timelines, and I was suggesting you go back and look at the Snowday. So you're going to have lots and lots of viewing to do. Something else I didn't call out too, I mean, I've been suggesting you go and listen to Christian's keynote in Snowday. There was 2 tracks of detailed presentations from the actual product owners themselves. So I'd suggest you go and look at those, because beyond the keynote at the high level with Christian, you actually got the team who are building this stuff presenting as well. I actually even haven't got through all of that myself. I've read the detail. Given it was last Thursday and prepping for this, I didn't have a chance to go through what was, I think, another 5 or 6 hours of content there, but I intend to. So maybe we can both do that together and run through it. For the sessions today, yeah, we will share the material. I have actually recorded the sessions this time around. There is a process that I've got to go through, which is one of the reasons why I've shied away from doing the recordings in the past and stuck with live. There's some extra things we need to do at Snowflake to release those. So I hope I will get them to you soon. We've started that process. We'll see how we go. If we pre-record it, we're going to have all that done before we release it to you. But because I like to do them live and we want to make sure that we've got the live Q&A, it'll be a bit delayed. But fear not, we will get those to you. Maybe that is a good chance for me to wrap up unless we've got anything else to cover at the moment.
I think that we're good to go.
Okay, so let me just do the final wrap here and just bring up a couple of slides here. And thanks so much for joining us too. It's getting later on in the day there, so I do appreciate it. So let me just share the screen. I'm going to steal that off you if you don't mind. There we go. I've got that one. Okay, hopefully you can all see this now. We've done a disclaimer. You'll realise that I did mention it a few times. This is all net news, so things can change before release. Just a couple of final ones to go through. So I mentioned this before, Ascent's coming up. If you have anyone who is newer to Snowflake and they'd like to cover off the basics, this is run by and hosted by our enablement training team. So this is a structured learning path. We're going to cover, I think, the essentials badge for data warehousing. So that's a great place to start if you're net new, or if you've got someone who you'd like to help, maybe a colleague you want to onboard to Snowflake and get them skilled up. This is a great way to start, and they get bragging rights with having the essentials badge as well for them. If you want to know more about this, so there's actually an LLM bootcamp which has been put together by Dash, Jung, which will be really cool, right? So Dash is going to run it. He's in the process of building it. So as I said, today we've got the information we've got, but there's an LLM bootcamp he's running. We might even do that live next year if we have a chance. See if we can turn it even to a hands-on lab. Let's see. So that's just one of the pieces of content that's coming. I think there's about sort of 3 or 4 hours of content in the boot camp. So there's quite a lot to digest there. So you're going to get a lot more. So definitely, we gave it a quick skim over the top today. We'll have more content ready. The team are building it right now as we speak, coming up from build. So I'd strongly suggest you sign up for that one. Just Google build Snowflake and you will find it and you can sign up. We're going to try and do some live content here as well, but there's also a lot of content from the global teams that's been recorded as we speak. So well worth it. If you're after material, you want to learn more, do go and talk to the community. Do start for quick starts. There's not a quick start for LLMs, but I'm going to imagine once that turns up into various preview levels, you noticed, you notice for containers, beg your pardon, get it right. The last session, the question was for containers. You'll notice the LLMs and other, as soon as we can, we've got quick starts coming. So if there wasn't a quick start, containers is one that pops out. There's a few others, they'll be coming soon. So keep an eye on quick starts and we will definitely get more of that material over to you very, very soon. One final little call that I put out again. There it is, the last time I'm going to shill it today. Go to Snowday, have a look at this QR code and do watch it. It was really, really good stuff and well worth it. So I think with that, that's the end of another Discover journey. I hopefully will be back hosting another Snow Day for you fairly soon. Another build session, I should say, fairly soon, not Snow Day, once a year. I really appreciate everyone. These sessions are quite long and marathons. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. You can see my LinkedIn down over here. So if you actually have a question, something you didn't answer, you're worried about where the videos that I promised were going to turn up, just grab me on LinkedIn. Don't feel shy about doing it. It's not a problem at all. I mean that sincerely. So just send me a note on LinkedIn and I'll do my best to answer your question. Jung, I'm going to leave you for the rest of the week. Thank you so much. And also Marco, who was on Q&A, hung around for Q&A to support us. Thank you both for presenting. Ron, who I'm not sure is there anymore, thank you as well. VJ did a wonderful support from Spark presenting. Most of all, thank you to you all most sincerely who have been through this incredible journey today on Discover once again. We love doing these and we hope to bring you on again very soon. Until then, have a wonderful day and close enough to the weekend. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Take care, everyone. Bye.